and I lived with my single dad, my brother Dave, 15, other brother Josh, 13, baby brother Sam, 10, and our paternal cousin Ben, 16. Our mom died almost 6 years ago. Things were hard, and my dad relied on me a lot to help care for my brothers while he worked. I didn't complain, and just helped watch and cook for them when dad wasn't home. And even when he was, because he said he worked all day and needed a break. I put up with it because Dave helped a lot as he got older. Issues cropped up a couple years ago when he had to take in Ben. His dad left, and his mom started drinking to the point where she was unable to care for him. CPS almost got involved, and to avoid that, he came to stay with us. I don't like Ben. He's a creepy little perv that would always comment on my clothes, how short/tight they were, or whatever. And he always busted in my room without knocking. No bedrooms have locks. I once even caught him in my room going through my underwear drawer. And when I yelled at him, he said he was just looking for some socks. He had 3 other guys who he could borrow socks from. Well, the other day, I had run out to the shop and Dave texted me. It was a video. It was out of focus at first, but I froze when it cleared up enough for me to see it was of Ben, in my bedroom and going through my hamper. He has my dirty pairs of underwear, then he just stuffed it in his pocket. That's when the video cut off. I was mortified and immediately came home and called my dad and told him what happened and even sent him the video. He just told me he'd talk once he got off work. Well, I stayed in my room and refused to talk to Ben. But long story short, Dad came home and tried to rug sweep everything. Told me teen boys do weird things sometimes, but he'd talk to him and it wouldn't happen again, and we should all forgive and forget. I couldn't believe it and lost my temper and said this was BS. Ben was being a freak and smelling my dirty undies and going in my room again. I'm supposed to just shrug and forgive and forget? Dad snapped at me to wash my mouth, and I just couldn't see myself sleeping there, so I stormed off to my room and called my maternal aunt/uncle. I told Aunt everything, and she was horrified and said she was coming to get me to stay with her. I packed a bunch of my stuff, and Dave helped me take a couple bags and boxes outside. Dad was in his room and didn't notice I was gone till the next day. My aunt told everyone on my mom's side what he did, and now he's getting a lot of crap from family for it. He's mad at me for airing family laundry to everyone and making him look like a bad dad. But it feels like he didn't care Ben was being gross towards me. Like he didn't care. Am I overreacting? I know teen boys are gross sometimes, but still. Should I have just done something different? Maybe asked to stay with my aunt and not said why? Am I the a-hole? Edit. I've been getting lots of comments of people thinking Ben was the one to record himself and send it to me. He didn't. Dave, my brother, caught Ben in my room and recorded him on the sly, thinking he was going to catch him stealing or something, not full and creeping that weirdly. Dave said he planned to send a video to our dad as proof Ben was stealing. Dave is sure Ben stole some stuff from him and our other brother Josh. But when he caught Ben smelling my undies, he sent a video to me instead. Also, I'm staying with my aunt indefinitely, until my dad either kicks Ben out or really punishes/reprimands him and installs both a knob lock and padlock on my bedroom door. Now, for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This should have been nipped in the bud, and boys being boys isn't an excuse. Tomorrow, what else will be excused in this way? Your dad just didn't want to get rid of a maid, so that's the thing. You did the right thing. I didn't think about it before staying with my aunt, but I've been doing the bulk of the house chores since our mom died. I just assumed it was because I was oldest, but my brothers are old enough to do their own stuff now. But like the "they don't know how" excuse got thrown around until I just got fed up and did my usual chores. I hope you're okay. The way Ben snooped in your room was inappropriate, foul, and I totally understand how you felt. You definitely needed to get out of there. It's clear your dad doesn't take your safety seriously and would rather avoid an awkward situation. Not the a-hole. Your dad is a bad father for not doing anything and standing up for his daughter over someone who is clearly predatory towards you. You deserve to feel safe from the perv and your father's neglect. Hopefully, he comes to realize his mistakes and how awful the misogynistic "boys will be boys" line is, and how he could have put you in danger for future inappropriate behavior. Stay safe. Yeah, I've felt uncomfortable for a long time, since the first time I caught him looking for socks in my room. That was over a year ago. I'm scared to think of how many times he's been in my room that nobody caught him. Totally understandable to feel uncomfortable, and totally understandable to get out of that situation. I'd recommend you don't return. at least until Perv is gone, but at most, ever. Just because of the fact that if your dad allows that behavior, what could he allow later, you know? And I'm very thankful your brother was there to help you out. Yeah, Dave doesn't like him either. None of my brothers do. Ben showed up with a very prominent only child attitude, mixed with an I'm older so listen to me attitude towards my brothers. But they just ignored him for the most part, and he doesn't creep on them like he did with me. Now, for the next story. Would I be the a-hole for forcibly adopting my brother's daughter despite his protests? My brother, Mark, has a 4-year-old daughter, Mia. He has never been involved with Mia aside from being on her birth certificate and paying child support. I, however, knew Mia's mother, who was a friend of mine, and she was alright with me being Mia's aunt, despite Mark's objections. Her mother passed away a few months ago. Mia was meant to be staying with Mark after that, but he gave her to her grandparents, who said they can take her short-term but can't look after her long-term and have been reaching out to relatives, including me, asking if someone could take her. I want to take her. I consulted Mia's caseworker, who said it would be fine. My husband and kids are all on board with bringing her into the household, and we have the resources to make it work. Extra bedroom, enough income, etc. However, the caseworker said that Mark would probably need to sign off on it, as he's the only living parent. I decided to broach it with Mark. His response was to call me a witch and tell me to stay out of it, that he stepped down as a dad and I shouldn't force him to now be an uncle to Mia. After that conversation, I spoke to the caseworker again, as well as someone who works in family law. As Mark is not looking after this child, and the grandparents are fine with me taking Mia, there is a legal route we could take to go over my brother's head and adopt Mia without his consent. We decided to take this route. We had to give Mark notice that we want to seek custody, which is going to kickstart a whole legal process, in which we essentially must prove that Mia will be better off with us, which shouldn't be difficult, but will require a hearing, possibly a few, and a court case. Mark is very against this. He says that he doesn't want any level of contact with Mia, as a father or an uncle, and that he feels I'm being unreasonable and not giving him any say in this. He has also said that the court case could have professional repercussions for him, and that if he's deemed unfit, which is essentially what we would be attempting to do, that could harm him if he had kids in the future. He also says that as Mia's father, this should be his decision, and I should respect that it is his choice to not take custody of her and remove himself from her life entirely. I'm worried that I am morally incorrect, as at the end of the day, Mia is Mark's daughter, and her grandparents could probably find someone else in her mother's family to take her. They asked me first and didn't ask anyone else after I expressed an interest. And as Mark isn't willing to give us custody, this would require a legal case, which could have repercussions for Mark. Additionally, Mark has informed some of our immediate family, siblings and parents, of my intentions, and they all agree that I'm in the wrong here. And while I don't give much weight to what our parents think, our siblings agreeing with Mark makes me hesitate. Would I be the a-hole for pursuing this case and not dropping it? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If Mark is worried about the repercussions of a court case, professionally and personally, then he should sign the documentation without making the court case necessary. Mia is loved and wanted, and I hope you manage to get custody. If he doesn't want to be an uncle, he can get out of their lives. Mia staying at the grandparents also means that she is still in his life. He is so selfish. Mia is better off in a loving home where she is wanted, and hope he can provide this. To be clear, she's with her mother's parents, not with mine and Mark's parents. Not the a-hole. Your brother abandoning his motherless child is the biggest a-hole I have ever come across in my entire life. I hope he never has more children. I hope you get full custody of Mia and give her the love she desperately needs. Also, I'd seriously reconsider having your brother in your lives. He is a horrible human being and incredibly cruel and heartless. He doesn't want to be forced to have contact with his biological child? Fine then. Hope he can take custody of Mia and cut off contact with Mark. Easy fix. Not the a-hole? He seems to be holding on to an unnatural amount of hate to his biological child. You're not forcing him to be an uncle either, or asking him for monetary support in any way. You literally are just trying to parent your niece since her mother is gone, and he refuses to do so. He's always been cruel to Mia. He tried to accuse Mia's mother of cheating on him, so he ordered a DNA test to prove it, and when the test confirmed Mia was his child, Mark had to sign the birth certificate. He had to pay child support, which was about £120 a month. And despite many people explaining to him that 120 pounds a month was a fraction of what Mia's mother was spending, Mark felt that Mia's mother was taking advantage of him, which caused a lot of resentment on his part for both Mia and her mother, despite neither of them doing anything wrong. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for saying no to my father? When I, male 38, was 12, my father remarried after my mom died when I was 8. My new stepmother hated my guts and made it her life's mission to turn my life into hell, and my dear old father simply turned a blind eye to her actions. When I was 14, she got pregnant and managed to convince my father to kick me out of the house, probably because she wanted her son to be the only one receiving attention from my dad. So, despite all my protests, I was sent to live with my uncle on the other side of the state. I was so furious, hurt, and sad that I disowned my father and cut ties with him. For me, he was dead, and I refused to even hear anything about him or let him know anything about me. My uncle, who is gay and child-free, became my dad, and he is a real dad. He helped me when I was down, celebrated with me and my accomplishments, and thanks to him, I was able to make something of myself. Well, 2 years ago, my grandpa passed away. My uncle couldn't go to the funeral due to being in the hospital after a car accident, so she asked if I could go in his place, since I had some vacation days from my job, and said yes. At funeral, I sat at the back and saw him for the first time in 22 years. And boy, he looked like the living dead, and nobody was sitting next to him. After the funeral, we had a small gathering at one of my aunt's house where I was informed about what happened on the last 22 years. Turned out, stepmom isolated my father from the rest of the family, and when my half-brother was 15, the witch drained their bank accounts, revealed that her son wasn't my father's son, and ran away with the bastard and the bastard's father. Since then, father had been into deep depression and debt. I couldn't care less, and was just staying out of his view and enjoying the food my aunt had cooked. At some moment, father came to notice my presence and rushed to hug me. I would be lying if I say I didn't see his eyes shining when he saw me. I didn't hug back. After some time, he invited me to sit on the couch and talk. The talk was basically 45 minutes of the most sincere apology I ever heard, and at the end, he asked me if we could try and mend our relationship. I said no. The fact he turned a blind eye for the things his ex-wife did to me, and that he didn't even protest against sending me to the other side of the state, far away from all of my friends, was too much for me to forgive and forget. Yeah, I am that kind of person. When I got back home, my uncle told me about my father's meltdown. He understood, but was disappointed, and so were my aunts. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Now, for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Super not the a-hole. If anyone tries to play the "but he's your family" card, turn it on them and ask, if we're family, why did he insert everything he did? Take a breath, you're not the a-hole here. It's simple. He turned his back on you, so it shouldn't be a surprise when Opie turned his back on him. The father was at his lowest point, but Opie was at a lower point because he lost his mother and was casted aside by his father. This is the direct consequence of the father's abandonment. Right. The fact that the dad thinks he can just swoop back in after kicking his, then minor, son out, and, in Opie's eyes, choose a new son over him, is just absolutely disgusting. Opie has every right to turn away. Not the a-hole. He had 22 years to apologize and be an actual dad and stand up for you. Where was he during those 22 years when his wife isolated him and turned a blind eye? Where was he when he let her kick you out at 15 to your uncle, who thankfully turned out to be a great man? Where was he after she left him and he failed to show up and apologize? He made bad decisions and now he's reaping what he sowed. Not the a-hole. He had chances to reach out after she left. He didn't. He shouldn't have treated you that way in the first place. Granted, I know this is only your side of the story, but he could have reached out plenty of times. Assuming that after 22 years you should humor him at a funeral was selfish of him. Not the a-hole. It was tacky of your father to force this in a group setting. He threw you out. You never have to reconcile with him. I hope you can put him out of your head. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.